Hey guys, what's going on? Veil Decay here, bringing another video for you guys today. In today's video, we have a 9.2 Frost Mage PVE guide, where I'll talk about the changes to the spec, stats, rotation, covenants, legendaries, and tier sets. I'll also discuss how they perform in raids and Mythic Plus a little later. So let's get into it. Alright guys, let's start things off with the Frost Mage changes in 9.2. So first up, we've got Frozen Orb damage reduced by 12%. We've got Blizzard damage reduced by 12% and reduces the cooldown of Frozen Orb by 0.25 seconds each time Blizzard deals damage was 0.5 seconds. Comet Storm no longer removes Winter's Chill. That is the three things that change for Frost Mages. So let's break those down a little bit and explain what that means for us. Frozen Orb and Blizzard damage being reduced is a nerf to our AoE capability. It's more of a Mythic Plus nerf than a raiding nerf, although you do feel it a little bit in raid with it hurting our ability to cleave a little bit. Comet Storm no longer removing Winter's Chill is actually a buff. That means that when you use Comet Storm, it no longer takes off your Winter's Chill. That if you use it with Winter's Chill up, every crit you get from Comet Storm will count towards your Icy Propulsion Conduit, which reduces the cooldown on your Icy Veins, which gives us the ability to have Icy Veins up more often. Here's a list of the stat priorities for a Frost Mage: Crit, Haste, Versatility, and Mastery. The reason why crit is at the top of this list is because of something called the Shatter Cap, which is obtained when you get 33.3% crit, guaranteeing that you will crit every time you shatter. So for the most part, Frost Mage talents stay locked in where they're at, except for rows 2 and row 6. Row 2, you can switch between Shimmer and Ice Flows. One is, you can blink while you're casting. So say you start a cast and then you blink, it doesn't interrupt it. Ice Flows, you can move and cast 3 spells. It has 3 charges. So you can cast some Frost Bolts while you're moving. Kind of helps with, movement, heavy fights. Row 6, you've got Comet Storm as your single target talent now. You always want to run that in single target situations. Splitting Ice, that's your cleave talent, 2 or 3 targets. That's what you want to run. And then Freezing Rain, you want to run it with more than 5 or 6 targets for maximum AoE damage. Other than that, all of your other talents stay the same, just the way they are. Frost rotation at its core is a very simple proc-based rotation. You want to spam your Frost Bolt as much as possible until you get one of 2 procs, either a Brain Freeze or a Fingers of Frost proc. You want to use your Fingers of Frost procs immediately, and you want to use your Brain Freeze proc immediately after you cast a Frost Bolt, and then cast 2 Ice Lances to clear your stacks of Winter's Chill. In 9.2, Frost rotation shifts slightly, so what you want to do is you want to cast your Frost Bolts until you get your Brain Freeze proc. Following your Brain Freeze proc, you want to cast Comet Storm so it benefits from your Winter's Chill, followed by 2 Ice Lances to clear your Winter's Chill stacks. Next, we'll talk about which Covenants, Soulbinds, and Conduits are best for Frost Mages. First up, we have Venthyr. Venthyr has been the go-to covenant for Frost Mages since the beginning of Shadowlands. It has very strong Soulbinds, and the covenant ability itself, Mirrors of Torment, is very strong. Single target damage. It also helps feed those procs that you need as a Frost Mage. Sadly, it falls behind once you get your tier set and your double legendaries. The first Soulbind we're going to talk about is Theotar the Mad Duke. He is extremely strong in single target situations due to Soothing Shade, which is a mastery buff, as well as the Mad Duke's Tea, which increases a secondary stat for 4 hours. The conduits you want to use with the Mad Duke are Icy Propulsion, Ice Bite, and Siphoned Malice. The next soulbind we'll be talking about is Nausea the Mistblade. She gives you the Thrill Seeker buff, which is 10 seconds of 20% haste. At the end of those 10 seconds, you will gain either 20% crit or versatility for 10 seconds. The conduits you want to use with Nausea are Icy Propulsion, Ice Bite, and Unrelenting Cold. Necrolords is the next covenant we'll be talking about. The covenant abilities are Fleshcraft and Deathborn. Deathborn synergizes very well with Icy Veins as well as the Slick Ice legendary, and after you obtain your tier set bonus, it becomes the strongest option in covenants for Frost Mages. The first Necrolord Soulbind we're going to be talking about is Plague Divisor Marileth, who is very strong in single target situations due to Kevin's Oozling, which gives you a 6% additional damage increase every time you use Deathborn, as well as the Volatile Solvent ability, which gives you a buff for each creature type every time you use Fleshcraft, which means you want to use that on cooldown to gain the Humanoid buff, which is a mastery buff. And I've also listed a few other buffs that are beneficial to mages. The conduits you want to use while using Marileth are Icy Propulsion, Ice Bite, and Gift of the Lich. The second soulbind I want to talk to you about is Bonesmith Airmere, who's great for AoE situations due to Forgeborn Reveries, which increases your intel by 3% as long as you have 3 enchants on your gear. The Morrow Gemstone, which gives you 18% crit for 10 seconds after 10 critical strikes. The Carver's Eye, which gives a stacking mastery buff after you damage a target above 90% health, which makes it great for those AoE packs. Lastly is Mnemonic Equipment, which is an execute that repeats 3% of your damage done over 5 seconds to targets below 35% health. The conduits you want to use with Bonesmith are Icy Propulsion, Unrelenting Cold, and Gift of the Lich. In 9.2, we have the ability to equip a second legendary, so I'll be going over which slot is best for your legendaries, which legendaries are the best, and in what situations you're going to use those. Some gear slots carry more stat weights than others, making them better options for your legendaries. So I'll explain those real quick. At the top of the list, you have head, chest, and legs. Then you have neck and ring. Then it's shoulder, hands, waist, and feet. And at the bottom of that list is back and wrist. Now your head, neck, ring, waist, and wrist slot can all be socketed for gems, and your neck and ring slots do not come with primary stats, only secondary stats. First legendary I'm going to talk about is called Slick Ice, and what Slick Ice does is when you activate your Icy Veins, each Frostbolt you cast has its cast time reduced by 2% and increases its damage by 2%, stacking up to 10 times. What that means is you'll have more chances to generate Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze procs, making it a really strong legendary in 1 to 2 target situations. You can craft this legendary on the waist or the leg slot. With the introduction of tier sets in 9.2, it would probably be best to craft this on the waist. That way it leaves your leg slots open for your tier legs. Also, the waist can be socketed for a gem. The place you'll be using this legendary the most will be in raiding in 1 to 2 target fights with as little movement as possible, so that way you can get the most out of the Frostbolt casts. Freezing Winds is your best overall legendary as a Frost Mage due to being so versatile. This is why I suggest you craft it first, as you can use it for raiding, Mythic Plus, and your general solo content. It can be crafted on your helm or your hands. I suggest that you craft it on your helm due to better stat weights. This legendary is a great starter, very useful in 3+ target fights, meaning it excels in Mythic Plus and some raid encounters. Unity is our second legendary, added in 9.2, which gives us one of the 4 Covenant legendary powers. You can pick whichever ability you are most comfortable with. However, if you're looking to min-max, then Necrolord would be your best option. Unity has a lot of flexibility when it comes to being crafted, because it can be made for any gear slot. That's not to say there aren't preferred gear slots for this piece, as the helm is technically bis, then you have boots, cloak, and ring as your other top options. That way it doesn't interfere with your tier set. I personally would craft this in the ring slot because it can be socketed while also leaving your helm open for your Freezing Winds legendary when needed. Before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to mention 2 more legendaries real quick. Not going to go into too much detail on them just because they are very specific to certain situations. That being Cold Front and Glacial Fragments, both of which are very fun and can be very strong if you know how to use them. So if you're looking to test some things out and maybe some low keys or something like that in Mythic Plus, these would be good to check out. With 9.2 brings the reintroduction of tier sets, which are class-specific sets of gear that have a 2-piece and a 4-piece set bonus. Frost Mage's set bonus is called Froststorm, and the 2-piece set bonus gives your spells a 25% chance to call down a Comet Storm every 20 seconds. The 4-piece set bonus gives enemies hit by your Comet Storm a 10% increased damage debuff for 8 seconds. Now let me explain why this is beneficial to us. The tier set bonus synergizes very well with the spec, and it helps solve our biggest issue, which is resetting Icy Veins. The two-piece set bonus proc, as well as our casted Comet Storms, helps to reduce the cooldown of Icy Veins due to our Icy Propulsion Conduit. And with more Icy Veins uptime, the damage from the four-piece tier set is pretty huge for us. The last thing I want to touch on is enchants, gems, and consumables. That way your character is Raid and Mythic Plus ready. So let's start off with enchants. On your chest, you want to get Eternal Insight or Sacred Stats. On your bracers, you want to get Eternal Intellect. On your rings, you want to get Crit or Haste, depending on which stat you need more. And then on your weapon, you want to get Sinful Revelation. Next, we'll move into gems. And again, these all depend on what stat you need most. Usually these are going to be crit, so you're going to want to get the Deadly Jewel Cluster. But if you need to get Haste or Mastery, then you'll go with the Quick or the Masterful. Lastly, we're going to go over consumables. For the flask, you want to have the Spectral Flask of Power. For potions, you can use the Spectral Intellect or the Phantom Fire. For your weapon oil, you want to have Shadow Core Oil. For your food buff, the Feast buff is best, or you can use Crit, Haste, or Mastery, whichever stat you need the most. Lastly is the augment rune. You can either buy the veiled augment runes or you can buy the new eternal augment rune. That's a permanent buff. In conclusion, for 9.2, frost mages are still very strong. Venthyr Falls is the top covenant, with Necrolords taking their place. With the new raid, Frost may struggle a little bit, but still be high middle of the pack. But where we fall short in raids, we more than make up for it as one of the best Mythic Plus classes in the game right now. Alright guys, that's going to do it for my 9.2 Frost Mage guide. Hopefully you got some type of information from this video to help you on your way as a Frost Mage. If you like what I'm doing here, if you like what you see, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It means a lot, says a lot, and I appreciate it a lot. So until the next video guys, I will catch you all later. Much love. Peace.